Week 6 DFS recap. It's the portfolio review, and we're going to go through everything. DraftKings, Underdog. We'll check in on current best ball in Eliminator sweats. We'll do a little Monday Night Football preview, and then set our sights on Week 7. We cover a lot of ground here on the portfolio review. Let's lick our wounds, see what worked, see what didn't. Let's do it.
I suffer from a debilitating condition known as atrophic chokitis.
Peter's one of the greatest depositors I've ever seen.
Trust the process. Let's go. Let's go.
I got auto match with Levitan. This is bullshit.
If I just go the other way in that 66, I win all the money. All the money.
If I had 150 lineups, I'd win too.
Process over results.
Make a bitch go crazy. I don't know which one of these my baby. Bust out AP, close 5 bullets in your head like KD. Bust it, bitch go bust it. And I had 10 pints with me in Russia.
Hey everyone.
Hey everyone. Indeed, GMs all around. My guy David, man, every single week, I swear I get tagged in a screenshot from this man. David, can I have some of your run good? Can I have some of your skills through osmosis? I don't know what we need to do, but you are on fire. Took down the cover 4 and hopping on a flight. Very nice of you, David. I assure you, you do not have to do this every week, but the karma is clearly working in your favor. Congratulations. Congratulations to Pat Moore. I saw you up there at the top of the Battle Royale contest. Nice work. Nice work. Brady, like me, a little bit more down bad. Got the blade again. Reevaluating life. What's up, Big Dan? What's up, Steve? The what? Josh. What's up, Brandon? Happy Indigenous Peoples Day to those who celebrate. What's up, Thomas? Dylan, TCD, Lewis. Thomas becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate that. J Mike says, win from the weekend. What did we do? Oh, on Friday, I met up with a couple of our crew from the Deposit Kingdom, 2 of the guys who helped me on the channel. You guys know Matthew Wood, who is our lead randomizer writer, and Lou Dog, of course, now moved out here to the East Coast. So we met up on Friday downtown, went to this place called Putt Shack. I'd never been to it. It's kind of like boozy miniature golf, but pretty fun holes. And you don't have to keep any of your own scoring or anything like that. So a pretty good time there. Meeting up with a few guys from the Deposit Kingdom, Nick as well from the Ship Chasing Discord. So that was a highlight. You know, I don't venture out from my basement too often during the heart of the season, and especially on Friday. So that was a nice treat. Always appreciate you asking there, J Mike. What's up, Chunk the Deuce? What's up, RKFD? Jonathan, Min Cash Merchant is excited for the Rashi suspension being over. There you go. Coming to save all of those 8th place best ball teams. What's up, Go AZ Cards? Steve already wanting to troll me on my anti-Vidal take. Do you really think Vidal is that good? I mean, I talk about a whiff on my part. I just really did not see that coming. You know, just all of the clues, the context clues heading into that. The split with Hassan Haskins, they signed Nyheim Hines. You get the overnight report that the Chargers are calling around for running back help. I just did not think Kamani Vidal would be a big part of their plans, but he definitely was the lead back there over Haskins. I do think you still have to be a little careful if they bring someone else in. But yeah, he's looking like a nice win, more for season-long stuff. I can't really envision us getting to him on DraftKings and Underdog, just with how banged up that offensive line is and some of the split stuff, but nice pass catching floor there, and certainly going to help get you through the buys in season-long stuff. Chris says, I just view bricking the BR as my sacrifice for more Rico Dowdle 30-point weeks. Yeah, this man is on fire. Back-to-back weeks with 200-plus scrimmage yards. He had an incredible quote I included in the Fantasy Life newsletter this morning where he just said they weren't buckled up. They weren't buckled up. His former team forgot to put their seatbelts on before facing the hottest running back in football. Trevor lamenting scrolling did not get it done for us scrollers this week. No, it was the exact opposite. You needed a monster ADP value team. We'll look at that team that won the BR this week, but that's how it goes, Trevor. You know, that's the thing about scrolling. And I talked about this, you know, on shows this week. We talked about it with shady advice and the portfolio diversity thing. We talk about it with ownership versus projection. You're willing to sacrifice projection, in this case, scrolling, in a highly variant sport where touchdowns really swing things for lower ownership. In some weeks, that is going to work in your favor because when the low ownership plays hit, it clears out the field and your path to first place is so much cleaner. On weeks where all of the top 30 plays on the slate are hitting, then you just need to be absolutely perfect. The path is incredibly crowded because there's a ton of teams, a ton of combos up there. And so those are always going to be the tough slates if you are a scroller. So you got to be willing to take your lumps if that's the kind of exploitative angle you want to take to your DFS play. Purple Yosh says, GM from another hellish weekend. Is the mic messed up? I asked producer Mark. He said my mic was good. Let me know though. I can check it if not. What is up, Garage, Chad, JGFC, Christopher Killingsworth. Chris, is this high school Christopher Killingsworth? Is this Green Mountain High School? My cross country teammate Christopher Killingsworth? If so, how are you doing, man? Let's see here. Daniel says took down the single entry $5 tourney on FanDuel, single bullet. Only lineup I played all day. Worked from 4 to 12:30. Rashad White had me sweating balls, and Las Vegas fumble recovery jumped me to first. Insane. Congratulations. I saw multiple people having really big days on FanDuel yesterday. Obviously, Daniel here. Our guy Eli Reasons posted in the Hand Builders channel in the Discord. He had a really nice week. I saw Taylor KB, who is one of the founders and CEOs over at Establish the Run. He banked $300K on FanDuel. So look at that. If you can get logged into your account over there, apparently riches await. Good to see you, Chris. Let's see here. Daniel says if Trevor Lawrence's second tutty to Brian Thomas doesn't get called back on Hunter's dumb butt being offsides, I spoke everyone by almost 10 fantasy points. Yeah, that was the sheesh of the week. If you're not familiar, Ian Hartitz normally compiles all of those near misses into a sheesh report. And yeah, Travis Hunter did his best Adonai Mitchell impression there of costing us very valuable fantasy points. But I think this is what we're going to do. We're going to start on DraftKings. Actually had a nice lineup over there in the SPY, but I need to pour some coffee as we get this pulled up. So let me get the screen shared. Let me get the overlays going. And then we will be underway here on the portfolio review. All right. Got the coffee going. Also, before we get rolling here, thank you, Pat, as well, for the 5 gifted memberships. Very much appreciate that. If you guys got gifted memberships here from Pat or from David, be sure to let them know. Thank you. And one easy way to take advantage of that membership is you are now eligible for the Battle Royale Bash on Thursday afternoons. Really fun show where if you're a YouTube member, the chat is gated exclusively for those members. You put a hashtag in the chat, join the bash, and I spin a wheel. Last week, there was pretty good odds to get on. I think there were about 15 or so entries. If your name comes up, I send you the StreamYard link. You hop on stream. I foot the bill on entering a contest. We did some Dawg Bowls. We did some Battle Royales. And if we win, we split the money. So pretty good setup. We did Best Ball Bash in the offseason, keeping the Battle Royale Bash going on Thursday afternoons, 3 p.m. Eastern. Take advantage of one of those perks with your memberships. Okay, here we go. This was my lineup on DraftKings. I played one main lineup in the SPY, the big SPY, $400,000 SPY with 100K to first. Felt really good about this lineup pre-lock. Loved how it was simming. I loved the ownership percentages I got. I loved the early slate for this lineup. But I will read the whole thing for you, and then we can kind of recap the ebbs and flows. It was a Jordan Love onslaught. Jordan Love comes in at 7%. Matthew Golden comes in at 5%. Dontavian Slappy Seal Wicks comes in at 1.6%. And Tucker Kraft at 13.7%. The other pieces on this lineup, Jonathan Taylor, 15.9%. Rico Dowdle, 41.7%. George Pickens, 7%. Rashad White, 25.2%. Raiders defense, 5.7%. I think this is the best lineup I've played all week, not from a results standpoint, all year, but just from a process standpoint. Felt really, really good about the ownerships I got here. I knew the Jordan Love stack was going to get squeezed with everybody playing Josh Jacobs. I loved the George Pickens ownership coming in at 7% here. Obviously, Dowdle was a chalk play. But one of the other things we identified on the cram is we were looking at the values and how things were going to shake out. In the two running backs who were really solid plays that I thought were going to get squeezed from an ownership perspective were Jonathan Taylor and Devon Achane, because people were paying up for CMC. They were paying up for Genty a little bit. I heard a lot of steam on that. People like Kyren Williams and Josh Jacobs. And then there were the values on Rico and Rachaad White. So a few of these guys like Taylor and Achane were going to get squeezed. So Taylor at 15.9%, felt good about that. And this lineup is smashing early. Like, it was in the top third of the contest with only Taylor, Rico, and Pickens going, because they combined for almost 100 points. And so I'm sitting here like, oh, baby, we're going to cook. Like, we could actually cook here if this Green Bay stack hits. And I was, of course, not going to swap on anything, was going to leave Rachaad White there and leave Raiders defense. Rachaad White, Raiders defense, they kind of do their job. 17.6 points there for White. Raiders defense, really solid play, 16 points. But the stack just doesn't get there. It was the Josh Jacobs show. Matthew Golden, at 5%, gets 13.2. Tucker Kraft, fine at 12.3. But Jordan Love only throws one passing touchdown. Really needed a couple more there. You get one to Golden, one to Wicks, and maybe we start to climb the leaderboard. But instead, we finish with 176.96 points and finishes in 186th place. But again, from a process standpoint, felt really good about handpicking this lineup. We were looking through lineups on the cram on Sunday morning, and I thought this Jordan Love stuff really stood out, and feel good about how this one played out. But let's see here what took down first. 208 points here in the SPY. It was a Sam Darnold skinny stack to JSN with a Hunter Long bring back, and then also included the Seahawks D. It did have Kyren Williams, Rico Dowdle, George Pickens, so the same Rico Pickens mini correlation. DK Metcalf at 6.2% ownership, and then you had to have the flex hammer here. Josh Jacobs, 34.2% ownership, 32 points. So Josh Jacobs got really steamed here. Him and Kyren obviously in great spots, and Josh Jacobs gets those 2 rushing TDs, 57 receiving yards, 93 rush yards, 32 points without even hitting the bonus. So you needed the Josh Jacobs, not the passing game side, but nice lineup here from Redham7. Yeah, Brandon says, I played the Love onslaught as well, like you. I had all the right pieces around it and the stack flopped, which I think it's a good process, right? And we've seen some of this stuff work out when, on After Dark, we were talking about the Rattler onslaught with Dink. A few weeks ago, we were talking about the Michael Penix onslaught with Uticow. And conceptually, those type of builds make a ton of sense to me, where it's like you're going to jam the best plays, and then you're going to go off the beaten path with the stack, preferably with some really cheap pieces. And if those pieces hit, then you don't really need that much more to go right. Because what you're saying, and I think this is why it sims so well, right? The number of things you have to get right are chalk plays hitting in one stack. If Jordan Love throws 4 touchdowns, you are probably finishing top 10 in a tournament with some of those low-owned stacks. And then you get the additional leverage element with Josh Jacobs being so high-owned. And if he fails and the passing game hit, you just wipe out so much of the competition. So I think I will continue to look for builds like that, specifically in the SPY. I think they play really well in here. Pat Moore talking about the Dowdle and Pickens mini correlation. Yeah, Pat and I were going back and forth a little bit in the Underdog Masterclass. And that's one of the cool things about the way the course is hosted is there are modules for discussion. So if you're in a certain section, you can leave a comment and we'll get notified and we can respond to you. But Pat was talking about correlations, and we were looking at some of the winning lineups from last year, and you would actually be surprised how many of the lineups had additional correlation beyond the main stack or beyond the quarterback. Secondary correlations, either teammates or mini correlations. And yesterday, of course, the Dowdle Pickens was a massive mini correlation there for helping get teams to the top of the leaderboard. I did play a couple other 3-max lineups. I wanted to get in some of the takes that I had on the cram. And a couple of these were lineups that simmed decently. But a couple of them, I was bullying the Sims here to kind of get lineups that I liked and some of the plays in. And I think the results of that kind of speak for themselves. I can show you a few of these lineups, and then we can move on over to Underdog. I did want to play a Sam Darnold double stack. That was simming really well. Cooper Kupp at 4.4%. JSN at 27.5%. Obviously wasn't sneaky, but the Darnold, JSN, Kupp stuff worked really well. This one I actually had Josh Jacobs, Michael Mayer, but Keenan Allen, snowflake here. Javonte Williams, snowflake. Just too much ground to cover there, not having Rico and taking a sub 10-point score from a running back in a wide receiver spot. And then Packers defense, that correlation didn't hit. But again, this just goes to show how hard it is to get a lot of different things right in a lineup, where you nail the Darnold to JSN stack, you nail Jacobs, good punt tight end play there with Mayer, and still a couple landmines, and it's not going to be enough. Let's see here. Justin Long says it's quite literally never Jordan Love. My best week last year on Underdog, where I had 2 top 10 teams in the BR, were Jordan Love to Jaden Reed stack. So I am certainly not going to say never Jordan Love, but I do appreciate the sentiment that the flesh wounds are still exposed here on a Monday morning after Jordan Love not getting there. This was the other kind of take I had on the cram that I really wanted to play in some fashion, and it was a Miami Dolphins onslaught. This one didn't work out because the Tua and Waddle part really didn't crush, mainly Tua, being sub 10 points. Achane I have in this one goes for 34, Waddle 15.8, Waller 9.2, and then I did bring it back with Ladd McConkey. He ended up being an interesting one. We were talking through his ownership. Another thing I got wrong, the ETR projected ownership had him at 20%. I was like, man, I just really don't think the field is going to get there with the late breaking QJ news, but that's exactly what he came in here at, 20.6. So I was off on that one. The rest of this lineup had Tedaroya McMillan, Javonte Williams, Rashad White in Browns defense. Tedaroya McMillan having 2 touchdowns and only scoring 17.9 points is pretty frustrating. Only 29 receiving yards there on 3 receptions. So kind of ran really hot with the McMillan play, considering that usage. It was just so much of the Rico show. And I wonder if that's something we have to kind of factor in a little bit going forward with McMillan. We all knew he was a positive regression candidate, but Rico dominating so much of that offense, both in the pass game and on the ground, and slowing the game down with those extended drives. It is kind of capping the McMillan, high-end target shares, I think. The last lineup I played, I did want to have a Trevor Lawrence stack. I talked about Brian Thomas Jr., liking him a lot. I did say Parker Washington was the play I wanted to do over Hunter Long. So I did this Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., Parker Washington with a JSN and a Trevor Lawrence or Ken Walker bring back. Decided to just stack up this game. And if it was the game of the week, the game you needed, I thought I would be in good shape. Played McBride here at 5.3%, Jonathan Taylor at 17.2%, and Jawan Jennings, who was just an absolute thorn in my side yesterday. I included him in the Shipcast core pick 'em, and I was the only leg that didn't hit. Jacobs, Tony Pollard under hit, Karane's over on Cam Ward, passing yards miraculously hit, and Davis's Matthew Golden higher on receiving yards hit. So, man, rough week for me, getting the Jennings leg wrong. Apparently playing through 5 broken ribs was the quote we saw yesterday. Playing through broken ribs, arguing with Kyle Shanahan, arguing with, I don't know if it was the quarterback's coach or the wide receivers coach, Leonard Hankerson. He just had himself quite a day yesterday. So these were some of my more Frankenstein lineups where I really wanted to get in some of these takes I had in here, but they didn't fare as well. I think that is it for DraftKings. I guess we can see what won the Millie Maker. That's always a little fun to see how chalky or how off the board the winning team was. Let's see. Here's the lineup I built with Dink on After Dark, the Rattler double. This one had Ibuka and Pittman in it, so that lineup was dead on arrival. But Browntown 4 scored 227.14 points. Oh, this is the play we haven't gotten a chance to talk about yet. The Drake May to Kayshon Boutte. So Drake May, we knew he was going to be popular. He comes in at 12%, just projected really well in a good game environment in the Dome against the Saints. But no one was stacking him up with Boutte here. 1.2%. That stack combines for over 50 points. They nail the 3 running back selections, Jacobs, Kyron Williams, and Rico Dowdle. Michael Mayer at 4.8%. And I did, one of the few things I got right yesterday was Gold Star locking Michael Mayer. I thought he was the best tight end punt play there. And then Pickens here. So this is a very logical lineup with just one contrarian piece. I mean, Kayshon Boutte is really the only off the board thing here. Jacobs 29%, Kyron 23%, JSN 25%, Pickens 10%. Mayer should have been higher. He was only 4.8%, Dowdle 37%, Colts D 13.7%. So another back-to-back week of looking at these Millie Maker lineups and saying, hey, jam in some chalk around it. You're not forcing a bring back. Just make one slight tweak. Everybody doing Drake May to Henry, Drake May to Stephon Diggs. You play it as the contrarian pass-catching option. And we've seen Boutte have some big weeks. Not massive weeks, but he has certainly been in contention to be their wide receiver 1. And the Stephon Diggs revenge game against the Bills kind of threw everybody off the scent there. So pretty sick lineup right there. Dowdle in the flex, though. You're right. I take it all back. All the flowers, all the compliments. You burned Rico Dowdle in the flex instead of having Josh Jacobs there. So TT says taking Boutte seems like such a whack-a-mole type pick. So it's easy to do this stuff in hindsight, but I will say this. Drake May has been spreading the ball out. We've seen a Boutte week before. We've seen the Hunter Henry week, and we've seen the Stephon Diggs week. So if you weren't buying that Stephon Diggs had ascended to the true number 1 alpha in this offense, and like you look at the usage for these guys, and this isn't revisionist history. I wasn't playing Boutte. I didn't draft him in Underdog. But I think from a process standpoint, I don't think it was that off the board if you were trying to find creative ways to play Drake May. And we'll actually look at the Dawg Bowl qualifiers in a second, because there were a couple teams that got to Drake May and Kayshon Boutte stacks there as well. And just as we talk it through on a Monday, I think it's pretty sharp. But look at this usage here. For Kayshon Boutte. I mean, his utilization score does not trail that far behind Diggs. Diggs is at 60 for the year. Kayshon Boutte's at 51. Utilization score is just a good proxy for how involved and how valuable a workload is. You can see the target percentage definitely tilts in favor of Diggs, but Kayshon Boutte's ADOT is almost double, has a nice share of the air yards and the end zone targets. And if we search even just for the first few weeks, before the Diggs breakout in week 5, you can see here Boutte and them were even closer. 53 UR score to 47, target percentage pretty close. So I think I get it in retrospect of how you could have gotten there if you were hyper-focused on I want to play Drake May creatively. All right, let's head over to Underdog here. I had a much better day on DraftKings with that spy team. Pretty rough day for me on Underdog. But as we kind of hit on with Trevor earlier, anytime there's no kind of unique or leverage plays that get home, those are a lot of the plays I'm trying to get to in my portfolio. It's going to be a rough week for me. And that was certainly the case yesterday here in the Battle Royale. The winnings were dwindling all day. Never had too big of a sweat here. Had a couple teams in the top 1,000, but nothing to write home about. J-Sam takes it down $50,000. I saw they were in the Discord there in the Deposit Kingdom Discord, which, by the way, if you guys ever want to join us in there, great place to talk ball, talk underdog, talk DFS. That's the Deposit Kingdom Discord. The link is down below in the show notes. But JSam99 got a lineup that was basically impossible for anyone else to get. And so that's, of course, going to breed some controversy and some talking points about this. You can see here they get JSN in the first round at pick 4, and then Josh Jacobs slides to them in the second round at pick 9. Now, that wasn't the most unusual thing. I had a few Jacobs and JSN teams in my portfolio, but they continued to stack massive ADP fallers. George Pickens falls from an ADP of 10 to pick 16. What was the next one? Dak Prescott fell all the way to pick 33 in this one. Rico Dowdle at pick 21. That's nothing crazy. But the other big one was Tyler Warren, who had a top 17 ADP, fell to pick 28 in this draft. I can actually show you guys there was kind of some controversy or, I don't know, conversation about whether this team, if there was like collusion or how it happened. And shout out to Wood in the Deposit Kingdom Discord. He was able to pull this, the full draft here. And basically the one thing that allowed this combo to happen was a drafter P money started with a Bryce Young to Tet stack. So Bryce Young being a rogue pick. But everything else here is fairly standard. And funny enough, our guy Nez was in this draft. Nez, Jonathan Taylor, Rashad White, Trey McBride. So you can look at this and it really is this one Bryce Young pick and other people kind of staying in their lane and doing their own things. You see a drafter, you know, pull up the Diggs Drake May, you pull up the Bryce Young Tet. Next thing you know, these pieces are slipping through the cracks. You know, people taking Tucker Kraft over Tyler Warren, Trey McBride over Tyler Warren, stuff like that. So I don't see any funny business with this one. And I have certainly been guilty of taking a round 1 quarterback. Funny enough, I think in my portfolio yesterday, I have some round 1 Bryce Young where I was victim to the star method. You know, I'll go in and start a batch of my teams, know that this is going to be a Bryce Young batch, star a couple of those. And next thing you know, you get timed out and then you try to quickly recover. So yes, it is always frustrating. I will certainly concede that when someone drafts a team that no one else had access to, but I want to be able to be in rooms like this myself. I mean, this is why we play, you know, head-to-head draft games, you know, let our opponents make mistakes and try to capitalize on them. So I get why it's frustrating for people, but this is not a draft I would personally want thrown out. All right. In second place, we had Gunner, Park here, Drake May, Jacobs, Rico Dowdle, JSN, Ladd McConkey, Trey McBride. So really a 1v1, or not quite a 1v1, because this one had the Dak to Pickens. This one had Drake May and Ladd McConkey. Here, McConkey obviously not keeping pace with George Pickens, why that faller was so valuable. But this was the next best lineup here. And then shout out to Bound, a Deposit Kingdom member here, finishes with a duped third place team, Drake May, Devon Achane, Rico Dowdle, JSN, Ladd, and Trey McBride. And you can see here, Drake May, not quite 100% drafted yesterday, 88%. That was a very, very strong pick. And Ladd McConkey, you know, drafted here at an 80% clip. I think before the QJ news, he probably would have been closer to 50%. But then we got a late push from Ladd McConkey on Sunday morning. I know ETR updated their ranks. Ladd was projecting extremely well with QJ out. And so his ownership came up here. But as you can see, really no unique leverage pieces. This is the first week that the winning lineup in the BR didn't have a player who is at least sub 50% drafted. There was the Ashton Genty week. He was around 50%. All of the other weeks had quarterbacks or other pieces that were well under 50%. So that is just how she goes some of these weeks. Trevor Arnold says, Pete, do you think on shorter weeks that flipping the board will be better than scrolling, i.e. the 100% own plays just project enough better that scrolling becomes less valuable? I think it's a good question. The way I would think about it is I want to be pulling some kind of uniqueness lever in my drafts. If you think about just drafting directly off of ADP, there's going to be lots of similar teams like that. If you think about just doing stacks of players who are drafted in 100% of contests, like a Stephon Diggs to Drake May or George Pickens to Dak Prescott, there's going to be lots of those combos represented. So you start to ask myself, how can I get unique? Well, I can draft a player who's going to be drafted in less than 50% of contests. That's one way. Or, like you said, flipping the board can be a uniqueness lever. And you can kind of see how that was working out yesterday. Before Josh Jacobs charged, the running back combo you needed was Devon Achane and Rico Dowdle. And Devon Achane was kind of fixture of 6-7, and Rico Dowdle was a fixture almost on the other side of the board, right? What ADP did he have there at closing? 14.8. So if you think about that, to get Devon Achane and Rico Dowdle on teams, you did really have to flip the board because Achane wasn't going to fall back to that side of the board. So it would have been reaching for Dowdle at the 1-2 turn. So I think that's a good example of flipping the board and where it could work out. Now, the question you have to ask yourself, or you're going to get burned doing this over a longer sample of time, is the player I'm flipping the board for actually in the same tier as those other players I'm passing on? So I like to think about flipping the board in the context of, I think this is a long flat tier. I think Achane and Rico are in the same tier together. If you do, then go ahead, flip the board. You're not sacrificing that much projection. Now, if you're saying I'm flipping the board to go from, I'm trying to think of who a good example of like a running back in the 20s yesterday would have been, then I don't know, Travis Etienne, Derrick Henry. You know, if you're flipping the board, you're probably sacrificing too much projection, passing on Rachaad White, Rico Dowdle, et cetera, to get to that next guy. So that would be one way I would think about flipping the board when it makes sense and when it doesn't. But as Copper said here, Bound should be ashamed. We've had multiple winners. The Millie Maker winner burning Rico Dowdle in his flex, and Bound duping himself with Kicks Guy 42. And all jokes aside, that is one of the risks of when you play super chalky and you aren't pulling a uniqueness leverage, you are more likely to be duplicated. And Bound is not going to sneeze at a 13.75K hit here, but it does hurt when you have to split that prize money, especially when it's just so hard to get to the top of the leaderboard. But that's not to say you don't want teams that project very strongly. And I think with Ladd and Drake May not being 100% owned, that I would have not assumed that this for sure would have been duped. I wouldn't have looked at this lineup on Sunday before lock and said, oh yeah, that's going to be duped. Copy paste late says, why not jam the ADP fallers like that, dude? Of course. It's so funny you guys are talking about the uniqueness levers. I mean, I know Trevor took the course, but we talk about 3 uniqueness levers in the Underdog Masterclass course. There's 3 of them. There's scooping up ADP values. I like doing this specifically at the top of the board. Anytime you can get top 10 to 15 plays on a slate, you want to scoop those up as much as you can. The second is flipping the board at the top end of the draft, and the third is scrolling. Those are really the 3 tools we have at our disposal to build teams that are unique. And obviously, ADP fallers is having your cake and eat it too, because you're getting a better projected player, or a better player in theory if the ADP is efficient, and you're getting a uniqueness element because a lot of people aren't able to get that combo in their drafts. By the way, if you guys want to take the Underdog Masterclass, highly recommend it. Pat Moore here with another testimonial. It has paid for itself twice. He also had a PTP bank. Highly recommend digging in. Pat has really spent a lot of time with the text, circling back to it, really kind of honing in on these concepts. So really love hearing that testimonial. You guys can get 10% off with promo code BADGE. Highly recommend it. And if you're in a bit of a slump, I think there are a lot of concepts in there that will help you either shore up some leaks in your game or kind of give you a new way to think about drafting. Let's check in on the Deposit Kingdom leaderboard here. Deposit Kingdom Top Fantasy Plays takes it down. Congratulations here to Top Fantasy Plays. Had a Trevor Lawrence to Brian Thomas with a JSN bring back. Really strong, simple stack with a bring back. had Devon Achane and Rico Dowdle and Trey McBride. So I love this lineup. It's, again, a lot of the best plays, almost all of them 100% drafted, but then scrolling for Trevor Lawrence. So Trevor Lawrence there at 23.91%. And I talked about this in my gems write-up and on the Fantasy Life article, which, by the way, if you guys are YouTube members of the highest tier, Hand Builder and Opto Bros, or if you've signed up for the masterclass, I post them there as well. Each week on Thursday afternoons, I go through projections, rankings, and ADP and locate the best plays that are going to be less than 30% owned. That's the threshold I look for, and to kind of generate some ideas for you guys on what leverage pieces you can do. And one of the things I was looking at with some of the winning lineups this year is pairing a 100% drafted wide receiver or near 100% with a really low owned quarterback. We saw Amon-Ra with Goff hit in week 2. And then last week we saw 100% owned Igbuka hit with Baker Mayfield. And that's the exact kind of play that Top Fantasy Plays did here, where Brian Thomas getting drafted almost 90% of the time, but people rarely scrolling down to Trevor Lawrence here at 23.9%. So really strong lineup from Top Fantasy Plays. Dan Key, or Danke, depending on how you want to pronounce that, had the game stack with Dak Prescott to George Pickens with the Rico Dowdle bring back. Also had Josh Jacobs, Ladd McConkey, and Darren Waller. So a little mini correlation there with Ladd and Waller, and then basically just one off Josh Jacobs. So 2 games in Jacobs. Nice lineup there. And then Gabriel Bergeron in third place had the naked Drake May, Jamar Chase, and DK Metcalf at wide receiver. So no JSN for Gabriel. Had Jacobs and Achane, though. That was a super strong combo, getting Achane to fall back. I guess they were right at ADP. Jacobs fell 1 pick. Jacobs at 5, Achane at 8, and then Tyler Warren at tight end there. All right, let's see. I bricked in DeBomb. Juggernaut took it down. Justin Herbert to Ladd McConkey stack. We talk about this basically every week, but you see in these smaller contests, and DeBomb is much smaller, 444 entrants. You didn't need Drake May. You didn't need Dak Prescott. Didn't even need over 20 points there. The Justin Herbert to Ladd stack was enough. And then you have the Rico to George Pickens mini correlation, which you did really need. Josh Jacobs and Tyler Warren there. So nailed those top plays at the top of the board. Jacobs, Pickens, Rico, Warren in those first 4 rounds. And then just have a skinny stack there. Nothing too fancy. Very solid lineup there by Juggernaut. Fullback dive. I had a team in 66th place, which was similar to that team that took down the Deposit Kingdom. A Trevor Lawrence to Brian Thomas with a JSN bring back. Had Ferguson at tight end, Jacobs and Rashad White at running back. Let's see here. SYUY Haas. Some of these usernames are brutal for trying to say out loud. They had a Drake May, naked Drake May, Achane, Rico, JSN Brian Thomas, mini, and then Tyler Warren. Isn't that funny? We've had back-to-back weeks with the JSN mini correlation with the opposing wide receiver hitting. Last week, it was Igbuka in JSN in that same game, Brian Thomas in JSN. And that mini correlation makes so much sense, right? Because how is JSN winning this year? It's downfield. His downfield efficiency is absolutely insane right now. And so you're getting him capitalizing on these big plays. I had a tweet here that I included in the newsletter. I just wanted to pull up his efficiency on downfield targets. This is from Next Gen Stats. JSN caught 4 of his 5 downfield targets of 10 plus air yards for 131 yards and a touchdown. He now has a league high 550 yards on downfield targets this season, entering the rest of the week 6 slate. So one of the other things I like to think about with mini correlations is if it's actually hitting in the way that you are trying for, right? Because sometimes I think about, Jonathan Taylor and Trey McBride. And now I did have those guys on a decent amount of teams, mainly because of ADP dynamics, not because I was going out of my way to select those guys. But Trey McBride is going to be more of death by 1,000 cuts, racking up some volume when he does hit. He's not necessarily speeding up the game. You look at George Pickens opposite Rico Dowdle. George Pickens scores on big plays, big touchdowns, boom, give the ball back to Rico Dowdle. They're not sucking the time out of the game. JSN Igbuka, big plays, speeding up the game. JSN Brian Thomas, big plays, speeding up the game. So I will say, when you're thinking about mini correlations, specifically in the Battle Royale, when only 6 players are drafted, thinking through, can they actually do what you want the mini correlation to do, is valuable. And I think I got a question on Twitter yesterday where someone was like, what do you think about Derrick Henry and Kyron Williams in the same lineup? And that's like on the other extreme end of a mini correlation I do not like whatsoever. Because when those types of plays are hitting, it's because there's long sustained drives, they're bleeding the clock. Yes, Derrick Henry can rip off big plays and speed the game up, or at least he used to do that as far back as week 1. But those are the kind of correlations where I don't think it's actually functioning how we need it to in these games where it's really top heavy. Any other lineups we want to look at here? I definitely want to check in on the Dawg Bowl. Shout out Crutches. I saw him at the top of the leaderboard here in the Wildcat, finishes 3rd for 150.54 points. Drake May, Achan, Rico had the JSN Brian Thomas mini, Trey McBride. I will say, as someone who was so scarred by Trey McBride's stat lines for a lot of the season, as someone who kept drafting a lot of Trey McBride, including last week or this week, it was really nice to see Jacoby Brissett get in there, run a functional offense, throw the ball downfield, get some plays going, giving the offense signs of life. And it really does feel as binary as Trey McBride with Jacoby Brissett good, Trey McBride with Kyler Murray, the most frustrating thing on the planet. I can show you guys my exposures for yesterday. I was pretty happy overall with my exposures, and I was way more intentional this week as well and felt really good about where I ended up. I had a couple landmines here at the top, specifically the Rams wide receivers. Devontae Adams, my second most drafted. Puka Nacua up there. I was taking a heavier stand on Puka at the top of the board. We talked about this on the Thursday shows, on the Fantasy Life DFS Jam, and on the Battle Royale Bash. I wanted to tilt my exposure to Puka and then be slightly under Jonathan Taylor and CMC relative to Puka. And that's about where I came in. I did come in tied Puka in Jonathan Taylor, but then was slightly under on CMC at 14.9%. But quarterback, Drake May, my highest drafted here at 17.3%. That worked out. Jordan Love, Daniel Jones were some of my favorite leverage plays at quarterback, just below. Tight end, Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson, Tucker Kraft, highly concentrated on those top 4, and then a smattering of scrolls, Henry, Waller, Njoku, Andrews, Tungus. Running back, Rachaad White was my most drafted. Rico Dowdle was my, 6th most drafted, and then had a decent amount of scrolls. Josh Jacobs at 12.9%. That ended up being one of the bigger holes in the overall portfolio. Not having Jacobs up here at a higher clip certainly stings, because this is pretty underweight Jacobs relative to his first round ADP. Partly because I was getting to a lot of JSN. You see here at 20.8%. Adams, Tetaroya, JSN, Puka, Brian Thomas. Felt good about the Brian Thomas stand just because he wasn't, a 100% drafted. And then another process thing, and I talked about this last week, how I was mad at myself for not having Rico, because Rico emerged as a late-breaking play on Sunday, and I should have been jamming that more. I wasn't going to make that mistake with Ladd this week. I wasn't selecting a lot of Ladd on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Once we got the news, I made a priority to click him on a ton of my Sunday drafts, so I got him up to 13.4% and felt good about that. So I would say this was my strongest week of overall play. One of the things I mentioned last week was I was getting sloppy in the sake of hunting for volume. I was, I have in my head, I got to get my 150 max in. I got to get all my side contests in, and I was rushing. And this week I started drafting earlier, Started drafting on Tuesday, Wednesday, getting a feel for the slate, getting some entries in, and really adjusting as the week progressed and then not feeling as rushed. I think on Sunday morning, the most I was ever doing at a time was 2 or 3, as opposed to in previous weeks, I would sometimes be doing 6, 7 drafts at a time and just making way too many mistakes. So felt really good about the exposures, the teams I was building this week. And even though continue to lose about 50 to 60% of my buy-ins each week, I think I'm on the right track here. And I'm going to continue to fire here in the underdog streets. Let's check out the winning Dawg Bowl results here, because I thought there were some interesting teams in there. So shout out Brontosaurus Flex. They took down the Dawg Bowl. Was that just last week or 2 weeks ago? One of these weeks. Maybe it was last week. Yeah, because the week before that was Jay Dennis. The week before that was Fantasy Grind. So it was Brontosaurus Flex took down BR last week and then ships the Dawg Bowl seat. So we've now had 2 times this season where someone ships the BR and then ships a Dawg Bowl seat. Fantasy Grinder did it first, and now Brontosaurus Flex. And this individual had that absolute sick Drake May to Kayshon Boutte stack. Drake May, of course, 100% drafted. This is the 12-person contest, so the ownership thresholds and the players who are drafted 100% of the time is going to be higher. But Kayshon Boutte still comes in at 6.7%. Rico Dowdle, Jalen Warren, George Pickens, Michael Mayer. So even with the dud from Jalen Warren, 7.3 points, getting on a low-owned wide receiver who goes for 23.8, and a tight end who wasn't 100% drafted. Michael Mayer only 72% drafted in here, 13.5 points. Really strong lineup. Jay Baconator, who has taken the Underdog Masterclass as well, gave us a nice testimonial earlier this season. He punches his ticket. Congratulations. Drake May naked, has Rico, of course, and George Pickens. That was the story of the slate. George Pickens and Rico Dowdle, but then gets 12 points from Chris Olave, 11 points from Matthew Golden, 13 points from Michael Mayer. Really just those top 3, Drake May, Rico, and Pickens, and then just not flopping at those other 3 spots enough to get there. And then Awin, I believe this is Awin's 3rd Dawg Bowl qualifier. I don't think he was at the inaugural Dawg Bowl in Miami, but then was at the Dallas one for NFL last year. He was at the NBA one in San Diego, and now will be joining Kansas City Dawg Bowl. One of the best players on the site gets home with a Drake May, Rico Dowdle, Alvin Kamara, George Pickens, Chris Olave, and Michael Mayer. And this is a fun one because, again, you nail the Rico Pickens, which you needed. Michael Mayer, great tight end pick, but actually plays into the game stack with Drake May and brings it back with Kamara and Olave. Nothing massive, but 10 points from Kamara, 12.8 points from Olave. In this Dawg Bowl, you see, obviously you need the league or the week winning selections, but then if you just have a floor baseline from the rest of your lineup, specifically your later picks, Kamara at pick 60, Olave at pick 36, so a little higher here, you can survive that. Of course, we always got to look at the bubble boys here. Dave, Hot Sizzos, Nez, I know, was in the hunt. If he could have gotten a Jacoby Myers touchdown, that one stings there. Nez always flirting with a Dawg Bowl seat. I'm manifesting it for Nez. Next week, that's his week. Mathology says, first week that the 12 spots took down the leaderboard in the Dawg Bowl. Funny, it was all 3. That was Rico Pickens at the 12-13 plus May 3-4 turn. That's such a good note. And we talk about it a lot in season-long best ball where, the RNG gods are giving you late slots or you think there's a clear tier break after a certain amount of spots. And it certainly feels like that in the Dawg Bowl. This week to me, it was after Devon Achane at about pick 7. That to me felt like a big tier break. So if you're doing these Dawg Bowls and you're like, oh man, back of the draft board, having to pick at 12-13, this is the worst of both worlds here. But then it gets you on Rico Pickens and then correlates you with Drake May as the first quarterback off the board or second quarterback off the board there. So funny how that works. And it's nice. I think it's nice that we don't pick our draft slots, because imagine if you just always picked a top 6 draft slot, you wouldn't even get access to that part of the player pool. So shout out the RNG gods for forcing us to pick from different slots each time. Mathology with the knowledge nuggets. Absolutely. Ashton says, my girls are out of town this week and weekend. Rest in peace. My bankroll can't wait. There you go. Get some extra drafting time in. We did put that flea flicker entry. Wow. Did I finish in last place in this flea flicker? I drafted this on the cram on Sunday. I scored 47.02 points. That feels almost impossible. I finished in 4th to last place. Shout out to me. Tua, Jalen Warren, Tony Pollard, Emeka Egbuka, Jalen Waddle, Darren Waller. So Waddle and Waller were fine. Egbuka gets hurt. Pollard flops. Warren flops. Tua flops. Great game, Pete. Great game. Another rough day for me in the Pick'em streets as well. We could not get home on our Shipcast picks. Brashard Smith, higher last night. This is the first time I'm seeing this. Xavier Worthy, to only 20 receiving yards. Another graveyard here. Here's my Jennings whiff for the crew. Apologies. This was another one. We had our second half pick'em where Gunnar Helm let us down. We only needed 4 more yards from Gunnar Helm. Everything else hit. Just how it goes. Our core, I know I messed up on the core because I had, what did I have? I think I had Michael Pittman in our core. That did not work out. Yeah, this was our core. Lower Tony Pollard, higher Kenneth Walker. He didn't get there. Can we talk about Zach Charbonnet? I mean, Zach Charbonnet has to be the worst thing going in fantasy football right now because the Seattle Seahawks are one of the funnest teams. Darnold is playing out of his mind. JSN has ascended before our eyes to upper echelon elite wide receiver status. You see guys like Barner and Torrey Horton and even Cooper Kupp stepping up. The fact that we can't just have the best running back on this team getting the majority of the touches is massively tilting. Kenneth Walker has been so much better than Zach Charbonnet this year, and yet they insist on using Zach Charbonnet in high-value situations at the goal line. This offense for fantasy would be an absolute dream if we could just get like a 70-30 split in favor of Kenneth Walker. So frustrating. Grant Glover wants a small prize for finishing dead last. Little low ball contest. There you go. JGFC calling it as well for our guys, Mathology and Nez. Shipping Dawg Bowl seats this week. You heard it here first. Lock it up. LBM's absolutely right, and we will get there. We're not quite there yet. We still got some stuff to recap. We got to check in on the best ball sweats, all of that stuff. But LBM says we need to lock in on the Monday Night Football pick'em. It's getting out of control. It absolutely is getting out of control. I have not won a pick'em since the second Clinton administration. That's how it feels. MO lamenting that Tez Johnson touchdown, 45-yarder screwed me out of like $450. I assume on DraftKings, he was kind of popular as a punt play over there. Smokers ready to take Calvin Ridley behind the barn. Yeah, right? Calvin Ridley, yesterday on the Shipcast, we stumbled upon a segment where we were just listing off the players we irrationally dislike the most. And Calvin Ridley has to be up there. I floated him because it's been like a multi-year slow rug pull. Like some of these guys, they just whip the rug out from underneath you and you can move on quickly. But Calvin Ridley crushes in Atlanta, has the whole suspension thing, comes back. We see the highlight of him at Jags practice, making everyone look silly in shorts. We rocket him up into the second round of ADP. That flops. Then he goes to Tennessee. We're like, he's going to be the lead wide receiver. That flops. Okay, now they actually got a good quarterback with Cam Ward. This is going to be the year. Now it's flopping again. Oh, week 5, he finally has a good week. We're back in on Cam Ward. Then he flops in week 6. Just Calvin Ridley. So frustrating. Thank you guys for the mojo. Yeah, I will say, like, we kind of had like a State of the Union last week, and I was talking to Trevor about the process over results and like what that means. And the first few weeks of the season, like I felt so shitty after the slates because the results were bad, but I also knew like the process and how I was building my lineups and being too rushed and being too sloppy. I felt bad. This morning, even though I lost a lot of money on Underdog yesterday, I don't feel awful because I feel like I was dialed in with my takes, with my drafting, with my process. So that is one thing you can hang your hat on, at least for me. I certainly feel better on mornings like this where I think I at least played well. And then you just build up the calluses to losing on weeks where all of the chalk hits or whatever. Like it's never going to be fun, but you at least build up calluses to it in a way that allows you to keep pressing onward. We already talked about the winning lineup, but we did shout out your day yesterday. Crutches, saw you in the Wildcat and the BR. I wish I could join you in the green. Congratulations. All right, let's check on some best ball here. I always like going over to our buddy Patrick Donovan's site for a nice clean review of the portfolio. I actually wrote in the PO box about my best team, and I don't know if it's my best team still, but last week we pulled it up on stream. It's the team that I drafted in the Best Ball Bash with 6 members from the Deposit Kingdom: Purple Yosh, Andrew, Artillery Frost, Willis is Awesome, Star Tours, Chad Candles. And even looking at this team after yesterday, it is such a wagon. Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, Daniel Jones, Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall, Woody Marks, Brashard Smith, JSN, Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, Jerry Jeudy, Jaden Higgins, Keenan Allen, Isaac TLaw, Travis Kelce, Jake Ferguson, Jonnu Smith. So no injuries on there. A lot of league-winning selections, some nice correlation. If you guys want to read more about it, you can check it out in my P.O. Box newsletter. Would appreciate if you guys subscribe over there. Completely free. It's a free newsletter I drop in your inbox every Saturday morning. And I write whatever's on my mind in the intro, and then I do a roundup of the content for the week, what's coming. Also doing book club there. Keep you guys posted on what I'm reading. So subscribe to the P.O. Box newsletter. All right, Best Ball Mania. This is where I was, I think, last week as well, advancing 30 of 150 for 20%. Can't complain about that. We obviously have 2 games to go tonight, so we'll see how much of that fluctuates. My top team this week, as of now, is a little different. This top one is Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Cam Ward, Jonathan Taylor, Kyron Williams, Brian Robinson, Cam Scatabo entering the chat, Miles Sanders, Puka Nacua, Jamison Williams, DK Metcalf, Jacoby Myers, Khalil Shakur, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Lockett. This feels like a Leone team. I feel like that string, Jacoby, Khalil Shakur, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Lockett, and then Tyler Warren, Dalton Kincaid, Jake Ferguson. That is a nutted tight end room. You know, we debate all about, is that ours? You're right, Pat Moore. You're right. That is I knew DeAndre Hopkins. The Tyler Warren, Dalton Kincaid, Jake Ferguson, that's a sick trio there, especially because so many builds are either, full punt tight end, elite tight end, middle it with 2, but the 11, 12, 13 is really, really strong there with Warren, Kincaid, and Ferguson. I don't think there's a ton other to sift through here. We'll see how things shake out. But yeah, let's check in on Eliminator. I also want to look at my big elims here. Yeah, this is something we have not talked about. Puka gets banged up yesterday with the ankle, leaves the game, comes back, plays a couple snaps. They say he's probably not going to play this week. I believe they have the bye week after that. So we're probably not going to see Puka for about 3 weeks. Probably can survive that. I mean, he was already carrying rosters. Just got to hope he comes back full strength in a few weeks. All right, I think I had 7 teams heading into this week in the Eliminator, or six teams, and I'm currently advancing 4. It does not look like I have too many big sweats tonight. 100% on 2 of these. The other one, 98%, 80% here versus Soccer Liam X. Does look I'm going to lose one of my highest scoring teams, my third highest scoring team this week, 115, going to lose to Dog Pound. Ooh, Dog Pound had a sick team. Jonathan Taylor, Rico. Yeah, I got the blade from Rico despite having Cam Scatabo myself. I have Ertz going tonight. I guess this could maybe get there, but James Cook, all he needs to do is outscore Breece Hall, and I need Zach Ertz to outscore Chigakonkwo to start hitting my lineup. The buys really hurt here, and then Keenan Allen not doing anything. So no Nico. I take the Nico hit. Drake May does his job. Cam Scatabo does his job, but man, yeah, stings to lose this one because this is a pretty strong team, I think. Here it is for the audio listeners. This is a limb I'm going to lose. May, Stroud, Ward. Set aside the fact that it has Cam Ward. Kyron, Breece, Jalen Warren, Scatabo, Dobbins. Pretty balanced running back room there, and Scatabo coming on. Amon-Ra, Nico, Zay, Ridley, Josh Downs, Keenan Allen, Tutu, Hunter Henry, Ertz, Chig. Yeah, I like this team. I'm sad. I'm sad thinking about losing it. All right, let me pour some coffee here. I need more. Not rescuing Puka was criminal. I will say, if you want to read some very funny replies, this was the one thing that was allowing me to laugh through the tears of my poor slate yesterday, was reading the replies to this post from DraftKings support that says Puka Nacua has returned to the game and all bets will settle as normal. There were some of these. I was sending them in our private chat. This guy goes, do you know how hard it is to win a 20-pick parlay? He's the only one I need to win. And now you're going to screw me and everyone else because he wanted to test the foot. Did he make or catch a ball or a ball run? Then you can say bets are normal. Helped off the field, missed game time. Come on. But this was actually my favorite one. In reply to this, someone just wrote, void Miles Sanders. I assume Chris Hurley has a season-long prop involving Miles Sanders, and he wants to be rescued for Miles Sanders there. I'm sorry. If you're betting season-long props on Miles Sanders, you deserve to get the blade. All right, let me see my big limbs. I think I was down to 4. No, only down to 2. Only down to 2, but one of them looks pretty good. So what week is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is a 4 of 6 week. I have one team in first here. I remember last week I was looking at some of my teams and I'm like, even though they were advancing, I didn't like them. So hopefully this team's better. This is Stroud, Bryce Young, Tua, Barkley, Jacobs, Montgomery, Tank, Keaton, Mitchell, Brashard Smith. That'll play. I mean, Jacobs, Barkley, going to need them to put the team on their back. Ted Arroyo, Calvin Ridley, Deebo, Shakir, Slot Demon, Leggett, Hopkins, and then Trey McBride, Dallas Goedert. That one has some legs. This one I'm in 4th. I wonder how close I am to getting the blade tonight. Herbert, Bryce Young, Stafford, Gibbs, Aaron Jones, Ramondre, Tank, Monangai, Mostert. I remember this is the one I looked at that I was like, this team doesn't deserve anything. Look at this running back room. It's advancing right now with 7 points from Jahmyr Gibbs. That's it. The wide receivers, Ladd, McMillan, Pickens is the one carrying this. Thank you for your 0 points, Juwan Jennings. Jordan Addison, 0. Coker. God, I thought Coker was going to play this week. That was such a buzzkill. Hopkins. And then McBride, 17.2 points there. So I could use Kincaid doing something tonight. Yeah, that team's not good. We don't have to go through. I'm still doing good in the Dalmatian. I'm advancing all 3 of those teams. I think I'm doing decent in the Chow Chow too. Chow, 15 entries, advancing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of 15 and a third in there. It's not bad. I don't think my big dogs are doing good. Oh, Charlie and I are charging. Charlie and I are up to 5. Dave and I are in the bottom of the barrel. Let's see how Charlie and I are doing with this one. Hertz and Bo Nix. Achan, Harvey, Montgomery, Tootin, Blue, Benson. Yeah, we slapped it up in this one. Achan carrying this team. Need something to break right for one of these running backs. Nico JSN. It does have JSN. Golden, Higgins, Dante Thornton. Dante Thornton looks like he's about to get cucked by Jack Besh. Jalen Coker, Troy Franklin, Evan Ingram, Jatavian Sanders, Kate Otten. Yeah, that team needs some work. All right, let's check in on Guillotine. I also want to check in on some splash play stuff. Thank you, everyone, hanging out this morning, watching the portfolio review. If you're new here, please subscribe. We do this show every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. We review the DFS slate. Other shows you can look forward to this week on this channel. We will have on what would it be? Thursday, we have multiple shows. We do the Battle Royale Bash, which we talked about. We have lulls that I do with Brian Hooper. And then Friday, we have the big DFS shows, Bully the Sims and Block Party with Uticow and JM to Win. We have Often on the Clock, which is the Underdog preview with John and Nez, and then a couple premium shows over the weekend for YouTube members. Saturday nights, I do After Dark with a guest, half conversation, half talking about the slate. Have had some really great guests lately. Drew Dinkmeyer on Saturday, Mathology the week before. And then on Sundays, we do the Cram, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, getting us ready, final prep for the slate. All right, let's see how my Guillotine is looking. I was fairly aggressive on the waiver wire this week in some of these spots because I needed to shore up some of my rosters. This one, it looks like I might get the blade. It looks like I'm getting the blade. Holy shit. I am tilting. I'm getting the blade. 69.88. I don't think I have any remaining projection. I'm losing my team. What the hell happened here? I went hard on the waivers in this one too. Wow. This team sold me out. Jordan Love 15, Gibbs 7.5, Brees 5.9, Waddle 15.8, Devontae Smith 8.9, Jawan Johnson 1.5. I went full Nate Noling and played Jawan Johnson. I had even snuck Brock Bowers onto this team for cheap. He was on waivers, and obviously no one wants to deal with him right now, but trying to build a strong squad down the stretch. Not going to matter now. Keenan Allen, supposed to be Mr. Floor. Zay Flowers, I think, had 2 fumbles yesterday, 8.6. At least there weren't any like start sits that would have even helped me. I could have gotten Romeo Dobbs in there. Well, I didn't think I was losing this team when I looked yesterday afternoon. Mainly because the Gibbs projection had to have been so much higher than this. That makes me sad. All right, let's see this other team. This is with the Fantasy Life crew. This team in much better shape, finishing 4th this week. Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Pollard, Olave, Franklin, Goddard, Tedoroya, McMillan, Njoku. Really just Jonathan Taylor and Goddard carrying this team on their back. Picked up Pearsall on waivers, trying to sneak him through for cheap. Have Bucky on this squad, which is unfortunate considering he was a 2nd-round pick. But we will survive in advance on this one. This is the Deposit Kingdom League. Let's see who is looking to get the chop. So I am down here fighting for my life, but it looks like, ooh, are we losing Dan? I'm pretty sure this is Dan. Peaked in Guillotine 2024. Last year's Guillotine champ. Also was on Battle Royale Bash this past week. 75.02. Lawrence, Kyron, Jalen Warren, Puka, Devontae, Waller, Jacoby. Oh, he forgot to set his lineup. I don't have any sympathies. Quentin Johnston. Could have put Matthew Golden in. And then would I have gotten the blade if that happened? Well, he puts Matthew Golden in, and I think I still clear him because I have guys going tonight. I have Keon and Deebo going tonight. This team is just squeezing by as well. Daniel Jones, Barkley, Breece Hall, A.J. Brown, Hunter, Theo Johnson. I'm going to have to get to work on the waiver wire here. Deposit Linked Kingdom team is in rough shape. I think this is my best Guillotine team. This is the Fantasy Life, or not Fantasy Life. This is the ship chasing one. We drafted this down in Miami. The big win here was getting Javonte cheap and James Cook cheap. I still have Caleb Williams and James Cook going tonight. Garrett Wilson, man, he got injured, only put up 4.3. Mason Taylor, 1.2 points. But Olave and Jalen Waddle giving me that high floor there with each scoring 15.8 points. How did I not start DK Metcalf? I guess it was a tough decision. Like, who do I sit here? I mean, going forward, I'll play DK Metcalf over Garrett Wilson, but going into this, I liked Wilson, Waddle, Olave, Bijan. Probably just play Metcalf over Olave, but I thought Olave just had a little bit higher of a floor than Metcalf, even though Metcalf has the higher ceiling. All right, those are the Guillotine leagues here. All right, should we set our sights? Oh, before we set our sights on Monday Night Football, let's take a look at some of the splash stuff. I should mention over on Swolecast, so we have 2 new second chance contests that are going to lock on this Sunday. It's a second chance survivor, so straight up survivor, just picking a team each week, and then a second chance TD survivor, so picking a player you think is going to score a rushing or receiving touchdown. Does not look like I'm doing super hot in tiers this week, although my best team still has Jaden Daniels to go tonight, which could help. My second best team has Josh Allen to go. What's shipping tiers this week? Looks like Chris is the one dominating. So Tate has been public enemy #1 for the Swolecast in the tiers. But this Chris Air has, let's see, 3 teams in the top 6. So the nuts was Christian McCaffrey, 24 points. Oh, wow. Mahomes went for 31 last night. I guess that I didn't even see the second half of that game, but it was what? Hollywood Brown scored 2 tutties. Drake May, 27. Jacobs, of course, Love. Wow, the Jacobs and Love. I would not have put those 2 on the same roster because I do think they're fairly negatively correlated. But hey, Chris Air shipping it. Genty. Pickens was the huge one from tier 7, and then Rico. Man, I have not dipped into the mini correlations in the tiers contest, but maybe I should have. It doesn't really matter which tournament we look at this week. It included George Pickens and Rico Dowdle. Mike Robb says, last week of Guillotine League Review, maybe? No, you are sorely mistaken. Last year in the Deposit Kingdom, I got bounced like week 2. Did I want to review the team I was eliminated from every week? Absolutely not. Did I? Absolutely. I will always see it out for those who drafted the Guillotine Leagues. All right, let's lock in, guys. Can we talk some Monday Night Football? We got 2 games tonight, which actually gives us a little bit more to work with from a pick 'em standpoint. But let's do our usual and hop in a primetime Palooza first to kind of get the lay of the land. So we have the Monday Night Football Palooza. The PTPs that settle on the night of are always fun. So let's do a quick review of the landscape. Quarterback's pretty strong. Allen, Daniels, Caleb, Penix. That's a strong quarterback cohort. Kincaid, Pitts, Ertz, Kmet What's the deal with Loveland? Questionable for Monday. Have we seen any news reports on Loveland? That's an interesting one. I guess you just take Loveland over Kmet, and if he's out, you just pivot to Kmet is probably the way to play that. Running back, you got Bijan, James Cook, Bill, Swift, and then you're into Algier, so pretty clear top 4 there. Wide receiver, Rome, London, Deebo, Q-Tag, Shakir, DJ Moore, Keon Coleman, Burden. So kind of a clear top 6. And then it kind of falls off into the Burden and McCaffrey. I definitely think waiting on quarterback is probably optimal and passing on Allen here. What's up, Shorty? Shorty says Chalktober in full effect. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's do I think James Cook is the 102 here. I think it's just to get shut out at running back. Like if you take Allen at 1-2 and Bill and Swift go by the time you pick at 2-7, you are really behind the 8 ball at running back. Rome goes there. Yeah, I think I will because I guess London, Deebo look good. Should we take Deebo or let's take London opposite this? I think it's close between those two, James Cook and London. London with no Mooney. It is sad that we get excited for London without Mooney because I feel like the thesis of the London play was not dependent on Mooney's status, but I hear you. I am gonna scoop DeAndre Swift here though. We're gonna make DMC pay for not locking up that running back. I like QB. I think waiting at QB is nice here with Caleb and Penix, but I'm gonna grab Caleb here. I'm gonna grab Caleb. This works out well because the drafter behind me has tight end but doesn't have quarterback. So now I'll get my pick here. This is probably with the Caleb. If we're wanting to get unique, it's probably going like Olamide instead of Luther Burden. I'm excited about the post-buy bump for these rookies as well. But I just think ownership in PTP, you're probably going to have Burden go, so it doesn't even matter. So we could go Bears tight end, but Kyle Pitts falls. I think what I'm going to do is go Cole Kmet here. Or sorry, Kyle Pitts. And then we will do like Olamide as the Caleb stack. And I could certainly see Caleb have like a spread around type game. Just trying to scoop up. Maybe I'm ADP value pilled after looking at the winning lineup from BR this week. Zacchaeus goes though. All right, so I'm shut out there. So we're gonna have to go naked. We got to go naked. Caleb. Well, it was a nice team until I got sniped on Olamide. I guess I just take Joshua Palmer. So we basically play this game, Buffalo, Atlanta, through all the stuff and just pray that Caleb Williams is a monster on the ground. All right. Should we let's do one more. I want another crack at this one. Let's do one more PTP and then we'll build a pick 'em. I'm also going to sit down here. All right, this one we got the 1-4, so we'll get a slightly different build from this side of the board. All right. What are some of your guys' takes for the game tonight? I don't even know the spreads. So we got Bills are 3.5-point road favorites. Bears are 5.5-point road underdogs. And the over-under here, man, that's a pretty good over-under. 50 for both of these. Would have killed to have these on the main slate. Not too bad. All right, we're up here. Let's see. We could do Rome. You do Daniels and Bill. I still kind of like pushing quarterback. Let's do Rome and Bill here. Judson likes Falcons passing game. Yeah. Let's see I need a refresher on kind of how these teams are DVP tonight. See if there's anything that stands out. Commanders give up a pretty good boost to opposing quarterbacks. Everything else kind of middle of the road there. Bills a little easier to attack on the ground. Commanders likewise giving up top 5 fantasy boosts to opposing wide receivers. And what do we got at tight end here? Same for Commanders there. Yeah, so the Caleb and Bear stuff looks solid. All right, I am going to get to do this Caleb and Rome thing. Do we just double stack him here since we didn't get this last time? Maybe we onslaught him here too with one of the tight ends. Atlanta smokes them. Minnesota Mike says, huge shout out to you, Pete. Last week I needed a winner and you delivered. Did I? I thought the pick 'em we built on stream didn't win. But maybe you mixed and matched it in a smarter way than me. Congratulations, though. I just don't know if I can take credit for it. I need Allen to score 40. Yeah, LBM saying, you know what people want? 2 of the best games of the week at overlapping times on a Monday. We were tilting this on the Shipcast yesterday. I gave my take, and I think I'm way in the minority on this, but it's just like where I'm at in my life and how I consume football. But I would like it if there was no Monday Night Football. Like if every game was just on Sunday. I just want everything part of the red zone package. Give me these 2 games in the 4 p.m. window. Let's have bigger main slates, more red zone action. Just let me distill the entire week of football into 7 hours. Just like put it in my veins and then let me move on with my life. But maybe I'm not in the minority on that. All right, should we do Zach Ertz here? And then who's a fun scroll? Some of you guys were given some fun scrolls at wide receiver here. Was Pat said Chris Morris, sneaky, Noah Brown, and Terry out? Sure. We'll just go all in on this game. We'll say it's Caleb Williams, Bill, Rome, DJ Moore, Chris Moore, Zach Ertz. There you go. We just pretended like Buffalo, Atlanta doesn't exist. Yeah, more afternoon games would just be. I mean, this one we've tilted forever. You know, the 3 afternoon games yesterday. But yeah, I don't know, man. And I just go to bed early now. So I'll get to see like the first quarter. I think I saw the first half. I got to watch the first half of last night's game, and then I'm just tapping out. So, and when I know I'm not going to get emotionally invested in a game, or sorry, I should say, when I know I'm not going to watch the full game, I don't get emotionally invested in it. So yeah, selfishly, I would just like all games on Sunday. All right, guys, let's roll up our sleeves here. Let's build some pick'ems. I do have, they're giving me my Boutte-stober for the day. So let's get a winner here. James Young, yeah, we were talking about eliminators a bit ago. He says, tough to find anyone advancing more than 4 to 6 teams. Yeah, we are down to the nitty gritty in eliminator. All right, Josh, we got to give Josh a shout out. That was last week. Was it last week or was it 2 weeks ago? It was 2 weeks ago. Josh had the Darren Waller first quarter catch for Darren Waller. Such a sharp call. It was his first game back. Knew they were going to manufacture some early targets for him. Let's see what he has. Burden, first quarter reception, 1.4, post-buy rookie bump. Should have something in the scripted place. All right, we're cooking. Let's get the idea box going. And here, this is the thing. I now need to preface this because I swear every time I get the idea box going, people are front running it. They're hitting it, and then it gets removed, and it's off the board, and then we can't submit it. So let's just all agree to click submit at the same time, okay? All right, I like it. 1.39x, there's the Josh call. He has definitely earned a spot in here. Draft likes rushing yards for Deebo and DJ Moore. Maybe on this, maybe on this build, we're more Deebo. Do we have a health report for Deebo? Do we have anything on Deebo? Mr. T, the Loveland bump is just a little hard because he's Q-tag right now. Have we seen, are there any updated injury reports on these guys? Here's some updates from yesterday. Deebo Samuel sounds like he's going to be good to go from the Bears. That's from Pelissero. The nice thing about that Luther Burden call, too, is if Loveland man, it is so hard to use Twitter now to find news. It used to be so much easier. Pat likes Chris Moore over yards on 21.5. All right. I do just want to see, check some of our projections here too. Kind of curious. What do we have here for projections? Chris Moore. Deebo 6 rushing yards. He didn't rush last week, but the week before he was 3 for 9, 3 for 18. Didn't rush against Green Bay, New York. He was 1 for 19. I like that 6.5 there. Chris Moore, Pat. I feel like Chris Moore might be more of a PTP play than our core, our portfolio review core. AJ likes Palmer over yards. 1 slide seems low. Let me, I always like looking, I meant to look at this too. Let me go look at the, I like looking at the RotoViz passing matchup rater here. Bill at 69.5. Wow. Yeah, life did come fast there. All right, who's playing tonight? Atlanta, Buffalo, Chicago, Washington. Luke McCaffrey and Olamide with the strongest matchups here. Deebo, Rome, not too far behind. Pitts over 60 yards. Wow. Caleb Williams. Yeah, his rushing yards have dipped a little bit the past couple of weeks. I mean, I kind of like the just Caleb Williams higher passing yards. Just with how much of a boost. Let me see how much passing yards above expectation the Commanders are giving up. So the Commanders average 254.4 passing yards allowed per game. His line's at 235.5. I kind of like just the Caleb Williams pass yards. What do you guys think about this as a nearly 10x? We play Burden with the angle from Josh. First quarter reception at 1.4. Deebo, 6.5 rushing yards. We just need one good rushing attempt there. And then Caleb Williams passing at 235.5. I think I like it. I need a winner. I need it. Did we do it? Did we do it? Hopefully we did it, guys. We can build one more. We can build one more that's more of a fun one here. Let me go back through. Okay, so 2 of you like the Kyle Pitts over receiving yards, all right? So I will capitulate if 2 of you like it. You guys want to do a little slide? Or should we just take it straight? Who is Chris Moore? We are all trying to figure that out. It's a guy that Pat Moore is on tonight. That's what I know. All right, I'm going to pour my last coffee here as we build a fun slider. Will not be tailing 60 yards for Kyle Pitts. That is fair. Let's do something, though, from this game. Who liked the Palmer stuff? Someone liked Palmer, right? Josh like lower on Shakir. You could just take no touchdown for Shakir. I don't know. Not getting too good of odds on that. It is touchdown or bust, though, for him to get over. So, yeah, you would just take fantasy points lower at even money as opposed to betting him not to score. I'll put it in the idea box. What else do we have here? When the moon hits your eye, it's amore. A couple of you guys are on Bijan receiving. Are we sliding or do we just want a second core? Do we just want a second core? Should we take Kyle Pitts back down? Yeah, what is Bijan? I mean, Bijan has been a monster in the receiving game. 106, 39, 25, 100. Why don't we just do a second? We'll do a second core here for this game tonight. Kyle Pitts, Shakir lower fantasy points, Bijan. I need a winner. I need it. All right, there's core 2. You got we want a TD one. I saw a Deebo TD, a Rome TD. Deebo, Rome. Let's put who else is scoring a touchdown tonight? Let's get one more touchdown in here. So we have Deebo and Rome. Who else is scoring? That has okay odds. Burden. That would get the juices flowing for sure. Burden is 3.37 to score a TD. That might have to be the play. Mathology, like zone-heavy Atlanta Bills will lean on the run with Kincaid and Shakir shot in the middle of the field. I don't know if I can get away from this 3.37, but I don't know if I like it with the Rome. I think this is what we're going to do. All right, I lied. So we're going to do 2 decent ones together. We're just going to do Deebo and Rome. This is just like a very simple one. And then we'll do more of like a highly projected one, Cook with Burden. So that's TD1. And then let's do the Burden thing. We'll do Burden with Cook. So 3.37. And then Cook is 0.84. But that's still an 8.49x. Daniel's really on this Algier higher rushing. All right. There it is. I gotta take my pick 'em account away from me. Smooth Criminal says the Battle Royale is out. They lowered the prize pool. Yeah, I unfortunately knew that was coming after it didn't fill yesterday. What did it end up being? Last week we had it's just they're going to always make it smaller if it doesn't fill. Unfortunate. 64,308 spots, 58,608. So what are we looking at this week? What are we looking at this week for week 6? Or week 7, sorry. 55,992 entrants. We still have 50K to first, though. That's cool. That is cool to keep that 50K. 10th place is still 10% of first, so I wonder if this came from kind of the min cash line. I'm at the point of the season where I need to finish top 10 to get back to even. That's the point of the season we're at. All right, let's do a first look here. Yeah, Rohan, I'm excited for it too. We got the post rookie buy bump for Golden. Like he was clearly a bigger part of their plans yesterday. You got to assume the same for Loveland and Burden, and then you have Loveland banged up. So I do like the Burden angles from you guys. All right, let's see what this week 7 slate looks like. So we have Jaden Daniels, Mahomes, Hurts, May, Dak, Herbert, Fields, Dart, Caleb. Okay, we got some heavy hitters, man. This is back to the Konami QB slate. Look at all these rushing QBs we have here. Daniels, Hurts, May, Fields, Dart, Bo Nix, Daniel Jones. I like this quarterback slate. Tight end, McBride, Warren, Ferguson, Kraft. So the same kind of top 4 as last week. Goddard, Kelsey's back on the main slate. Ertz back on the main slate. Waller slipped a little bit. Okay there. Running back, Jonathan Taylor, Jacobs, Achane, Barkley. Judkins versus Miami. Early drafters excited for him. Rico, Javonte, Bill, Genty, Only teams on buys are Bills and Ravens. There you go. Pickens, though. So the wide receiver slate is a little rough because it doesn't look like Seattle's on the main slate. Puka's off the main slate and hurt. Pickens, Rashee Rice opening up at a 9.6. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm excited about Rashee Rice too. I don't know if he just immediately is the wide receiver 2 on the slate. Am I off on that? Or is that kind of crazy? Like taking Rashee Rice over Justin Jefferson feels crazy to me. Or even over Rome. Achane Barkley, it's probably Achane, even though the matchup on the road at Cleveland does not feel great. Barkley versus Minnesota. My gut says Barkley versus Minnesota is a little better. Yeah, Rashee Rice is like week 1 best ball brain, but week 6 since it's his first week back. Dude, the Rice zealots are like, I get it, right? Like if you draft Rashee Rice, I mean, this is your Super Bowl. But we don't have to let the season-long Rice zealots infiltrate RBRs. Actually, we should. We should let the Rice zealots come in and draft Rashee Rice in the first round. Oh, God, I know where we're headed here. Matt points out that Rashee Rice is 5,600 this week on DraftKings. Oh, God. Oh, God. Let's see where he goes in this one. The Rice zealots have entered the chat. The Rice zealots have entered the chat. The one thing you have going for you is that this is a fairly weak wide receiver slate, and it's going to be a pretty flat tier. But like I said, I'm not taking Rashee Rice over Justin Jefferson and Rome. Get a blog and your own YouTube channel. I think we just keep playing Rico. Like at this point, Rico should probably be a first round pick. I mean, I've seen everything I need to see. The Jets suck. Rico is our generation's LaDainian Tomlinson. Exactly. We want you guys to take him. In fact, you will not get Rashee Rice after pick 7. You got to take him before that. Don't tell the Rice zealots that he's not 100%, Francis. They'll come for you. Yeah, Judkins in definitely a bounce back spot here. All right, I went Rico and Barkley. Can definitely push quarterback this week. What do we think? Do we think CeeDee Lamb is back this week? Has a chance to play in week 7? He's probably a good Q tag if he's getting closer here. CeeDee Lamb, if he's in, will close as a first round pick. CeeDee Lamb goes, so there goes that angle. Do we think, is it going to be Jacoby again? Also, do we think Quentin Johnston's going to be out another week? Because this game could be very hot here. Chargers versus Indy. Let's ride the lad train here. Josh says Vrabel goes back to Tennessee this week. He's not the type to run up the score, is he? I don't know if Vrabel has the horses to run up the score, but Tennessee is just, the thing about Tennessee is it's not that they're just bad themselves. They just bring down every game as well. It's like where fun games go to die. when does this Rico stuff come back down to earth? I mean, the reason he's going here is because people are worried about Chuba coming back. It is a really fascinating dynamic considering how much money they gave Chuba, and then for Rico Dowdle to just be so good. I mean, they'll give Chuba a few touches, but don't you think even with his first game back, they're not just going to immediately give Chuba 50% of the touches when Rico's playing this well? Yeah, Dan, we talked about your guillotine squad. It's on you, bro. You didn't take out Quentin Johnston. Man, look at how deep this week is at running back. Genty's still hanging around here, huh? I guess everyone's just fed up with the Raiders at this point. Man, wide receiver, huh? Goddard continues to ball out, but I have Barkley on this team. This is how we stick it to the Rice guys, jamming him. This is when, Travis Kelce scores 2 touchdowns in Rice's first game back. We'll take Travis Kelce here. So we have a quarterback and a wide receiver left. I think this is going to be a fun slate. Quarterback super deep, wide receivers really flat, running backs strong at the top. Only 2 teams on bye. Is Rico really that good, or is the line and blocks, which Chuba could do similar, if not better? I mean, I don't think anyone thinks that Rico Dowdle is some special talent. Or sorry, I should say some, athletic, specimen. But he's obviously very good at running the ball. I'm just more inclined to ride these trends than try to guess on when it's going to come crashing to the end. I feel like CMC is another good example too, where it's like every week it's like, CMC looks poor as a rusher, but like the volume is so good. It's like, just keep playing CMC until he gets hurt, basically. Should we play? Let's play the Terry Q tag. This is one of those where it's like wide receiver so flat. I'd rather just have the placeholder at this point in the week for my wide receiver spot. Man, no one wants Hurts, huh? I don't really love Hurts on a Barkley team, but if Hurts falls to the 6th, I will. I guess we'll see if Dab K takes him or not, because otherwise, do I just go Hurts at this price? We could always do Ladd with Herbert, of course. Can also play Daniel Jones opposite Ladd. Oh, man, you're telling me. LBM says that Raiders-Titans game was one of the worst games of all time. I mean, we were live for the Shipcast, and I think Red Zone showed that game maybe 3 total times. And when they did show it, it was just Cam Ward making a horrific mistake or Geno Smith making a horrific mistake. Scat comes back down to earth versus Denver. I mean, down to earth relative to scoring 30 points, sure. But, man, his role is so good. He's just not going to go away. I think he has such a high floor. Look at how good this quarterback slate is. I'm about to pick with my 6th round selection in Hurts, Herbert, Fields, Dart, Caleb. Caleb, this Caleb one is insane. Caleb at home versus New Orleans. This is the spot we were just so excited about for Drake May. But Hurts falls all the way back here. I'm just going to take Hurts. I don't love the the Hurts-Barkley pairing necessarily, but I think at this price, it's mitigated a little bit. Generally, I worry more about the negative correlations if it's, top 3, top 4 rounds, but Hurts in the 6th, sure. Jalen Hurts, Barkley, Rico, Ladd, Terry, Travis Kelce. Let me do one more of these. I want to do one more. Like I said, I'm now in the mode of drafting a little bit earlier in the week, so we'll start to get a little perspective on the slate. This definitely happens with stuff. Pat says people are just forgetting the Bears exist because the bye and Monday Night Football hasn't happened yet. I mean, they're not forgetting that Rome exists, but I do think you're probably right. Like, Rome you could probably argue that Rome should be the 101, not 101, but the first wide receiver off the board on this slate. It should probably be Jefferson and Rome at the top, because Pickens should not be a first round pick if CeeDee's back. We've already had the Rashee Rice conversation. Dome equals points. Is this Derek Carty's burner? I did see this, Davis. We pulled up the winning lineup, winning draft room earlier. And now I can say my joke. If Nez was in my room, I would have won the BR too. And guess what? Ask and you shall receive, because Nez is here. 1-2. This is my moment. This is my J Sam moment with Nez. All right, I think I have one more coffee pour in me here for this final draft. It's interesting talking about the golden stuff. I just saw this tweet from Hayden Winks that the golden snaps weren't even as high as you would have thought. Kept him at 69% of the snaps out of the bye. But man, he looked good yesterday. They were giving him some end arounds. He was making some nice plays. It is unfortunate that the Packers just won't go full-blown pass heavy. Moz is worried about my caffeine intake. I've had 3 cups of coffee this morning. You're worried about my 3rd cup of coffee? Who are you, fucking Andrew Huberman? All right, time to put our money where our mouth is. We're gonna go double wide receiver here. Justin Jefferson, Rome Odunze. And we know Caleb is free. My favorite bit is when, I'm not saying you, Davis, but just people in general, who are way unhealthier than me, try to give me advice on the things I consume. But yes, I am in this window as well. I have my water in the morning. Generally save my first cup of coffee for the streams, at least when I have morning shows on Sunday and Monday. And I am not an afternoon coffee drinker either. Judkins, Rashee Rice. That's the week 7 slap start. The slap start of the week. Quinshon Judkins and Rashee Rice. The other funny thing about the Rashee Rice stuff is, I don't know if you guys know, but it is half point PPR. You don't get the full point for the Rashee Rice PPR scam that everybody's so excited about. What exact time are the games tonight? One of them 7:15. That actually plays in my favor. I'm certainly awake at 7:15. So yeah, Bills Atlanta starts at 7:15, and then Chicago Washington's the typical 8:15 time. Imagine if I was like a Seattle Mariners fan. Shout out to all the Seattle Mariners fans out there. Ben Gretsch, Kendall Valenzuela. I guess that game's 5 p.m. I guess that one's in Toronto, so we get the East Coast start for that one. 5 p.m. That's not bad. That's when Monday Night Football should start. 5 p.m. Eastern. All right. We're going to take Caleb Williams with our last pick. Breece Hall versus Carolina. Carolina's been kind of decent. I kind of like the scat. We were just talking about that. We can punt. We can punt tight end. Let's get a second running back here. Who should be my second running back? Do we do the Genty thing? What do we think about this Genty spot? Genty or Breece Hall? Wow. After Alvin Kamara, you're to A.J. Dillon and Amari DiMarcado range. The Raiders on the road at KC just feels like a generational laughing moment for this franchise. All right, we're going to go Breece Hall. He had a pretty good workload yesterday, despite the team looking like ass. Scatabo and Breece, Jefferson and Rome, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do at tight end. Oh, we got it. Hang on. We got to get our eyes on Nez. What's Nez doing in this draft? Did Nez gift me the winner? Josh Jacobs, Jaden Daniels, Javonte Williams. Is Buster Boys crowdsourcing this draft to the slap community? Quinshon Judkins, Rashee Rice, Trey McBride, Patrick Mahomes. Just a Discord of SEALs voting on their keyboard for each pick. Man, week 7. Week 7. So we are like halfway to the end of the regular season after this week. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, Caleb Williams, who should be our tight end selection. Do like Goddard opposite Justin Jefferson. I swear the Eagles are just trolling A.J. Brown at this point. Like when I saw them get another one of those goal line plays drawn up for Dallas Goedert, just like they really are committed to the bit of making sure A.J. Brown is unhappy. I'm not much of a double stacker in these BRs. I don't think Loveland's on the menu for me. Ertz at Dallas. That's actually not a bad one. He's probably going to be a projection riser just with how atrocious Dallas has been. And this Goddard stuff has to end eventually, right? Right? 4 targets, 9 targets, 11 targets the past 3 weeks. Look at the touchdowns. This dude has scored 5 touchdowns in the past 4 weeks. And I'm going to click Zach fucking Ertz over him. Trust the process. All right, here's our second crack at a week 7 BR, 148 to go. Caleb Williams, Cam Scatabo, Breece Hall, Justin Jefferson, Roma Dunze, Zach Ertz. There she is. There she is. Appreciate everybody hanging out for the portfolio review. Thank you again to the super chatters here, Pat Moore, and I think I already lost it, but David gifting memberships. Like I said, take advantage of that. Join the Battle Royale Bash if you want to draft a team with me. And if you guys are Hand Builder and Opto-Bro tier, you get access to After Dark and the Crams as well. All right, guys. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Enjoy the Monday Night Football doubleheader. And for the love of God, can one of these pick'ems hit for us, guys? I think we did it tonight. I think we did. One of these will hit. We need a winner. Shout out you guys. Shout out producer Mark. We'll see you guys next time.